Hi, my name is Wesley Lawton. I'm the licensed professional counselor at All Things Grow Counseling in Mount Clemens, Michigan. I see people in person in my office as well as across the state via telehealth. And this is part 3 out of 4 of my little series of videos of 20 things that your grieving friends and family want you to know. So this is for people who are grieving. If you have a hard time sometimes finding the words about what you're thinking and feeling as you relate to other people, maybe this can help you. But it's especially directed at people who know grieving folks who are trying to support them as best as they can. So thank you for trying to support. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope that you find it helpful. So starting with number 11 out of 20, we're going to go through 11 through 15 today. And so number 11, unfortunately, is kind of a tough one. It's something I haven't run into very often, but I have more than once, so I really want to address it. And it is, don't act like you're there for them when you're not. So one example that comes to mind is I talked to a client who received a card from this group of people who they knew, and it was around the year anniversary of their loved one who died. So it was a nice gesture to get a card around that time and to acknowledge that. But the ways that people wrote in the card came across to them like they were acting as if they'd been there for them all year. They did not experience that at all. It's like, I didn't even really hear from any of or most of you at all. And the ones I heard from, it was like, oh, if you need anything, give me a call, which I've already talked about how that's not necessarily the most helpful thing, even though it might feel that way to you. So um, if you if some time has gone by and you're talking with somebody who's grieving, take an honest look, please, for their sake, at whether or not you've been for them. In what ways have you been for them? Have you actually provided any kind of concrete support to them? And if the answer is no, I mean, you don't need to make it about you and apologize and whatever. If you feel it's appropriate to apologize, you could do that, but don't stay there. Um, and certainly don't um, act like you actually have been there for them, right? Just kind of make it right from now on and pick it up from today and do some of the things that I talked about in a previous video about um, offering specific help, right? Things that anybody can need. Can I bring you a meal? Do you want to get together for coffee? Can I help watch your kids? What do you need? Asking what do you need and being honest and telling them, I want to support you. I want to help you in some way. Could you please tell me something real that you need, right? Maybe it's $30 for DoorDash or whatever. Um, but yeah, so, but certainly don't act like you're there for them when you're not. Stop and think about how hurtful that can be. That can really damage your relationship more than it already has by you not being there for them. I think that the motivation for people acting this way would be to kind of help themselves feel better, to appease their own conscience. And, if you take an honest look at it, that's really empty and false. And deep down that you haven't really been there for them and you're kind of adding insult to injury. Let me move on to number 12. Don't tell them you know how they feel. So thankfully, a lot of people know this, to not say, I know how you feel, but so many more people continue to do this. So I want to address this as well. Just never say that. Never say, I know how you feel. Even if you've had the same type of relationship, let's say that they also lost their wife and you've lost their wife, and even if it's to the same disease, still, it would be a good idea to just not say, I know how you feel. If it's a really specific situation like that where you can relate to them on so many levels with the same type of loss, maybe around the same time, or a lot of similar aspects of it, you can say something like, you can tell them about your own loss and just say, so even though I can't know exactly how you feel, I might know better than a lot of people in your life, and then you can open up to talk to them about it and to be a person who does maybe understand more of what they're going through than others would. But never make it absolute, like, I know exactly how you feel. This is something that grieving people actually still hear a lot. And most often, it's not even in a situation that's really similar. It's a completely different type of loss or a completely different type of situation. It's like, oh, your husband died. Yeah, I remember when I lost my dad, and blah blah blah. And to just act like, or to explicitly say, so I know how you feel. You really don't. And when people are grieving, their tendency is to feel like nobody understands them and nobody knows how they feel. And there's some truth in that. This is a unique person who died, a unique relationship with them. Even if it's somebody, let's say that it's you both lost your mom and you are siblings, you still don't know how the other person feels completely because, again, you had a unique relationship. You and they are different people. You need to grieve in different ways. So just try to avoid that phrase altogether. If you want someone to feel like you are trustworthy and like you can understand their feelings or empathize with them, just show them that. Just listen to them well and, um, you know, notice their feelings and just say, oh, that sounds so sad, or yeah, it sounds like you're really angry about that. That's understandable, right? That must have been really painful. These types of experiences, show them that you know how they feel if you really think that they do, but don't say that. Let's go on to number 13. It's okay to remind them of the good things in their life, but don't even approach these until you've acknowledged the hard things. Okay, so gratitude is important, and we can easily, especially when we're grieving, take for granted the gifts that we have in life. And that's true even if you're not grieving. It's so important to be aware of the good things that we have in our life and the blessings we have. And if we're suffering, if we're struggling, to remember, frankly, all the ways that it could be worse, that maybe you still have your health, or you still have your kids or your parents or your spouse or your partner or whatever. You still have a car that works, you still have a job, whatever it is. It's important to appreciate these things. That can totally change your outlook on life. But don't be quick to jump to that if you're supporting somebody who's grieving. Don't be quick to point those things out. What is more helpful more often is to acknowledge the hard stuff and to sit with them there. That's more uncomfortable. That's harder, but it's more helpful. It's what they need. So don't rush to the easy and nice things that can be, maybe you want to be the person in their life who talks to them about all the happy positive things and the silver linings, but that's really for your well-being, not for theirs. What they probably need from you is to not try to change how they feel, to listen to how they feel about what they're going through, the aspects of it, and to not try to change it and make it better, but just kind of be there, be a witness, and to help them in practical ways. So you can say things like, that must be so hard, and I'm so sorry, and yeah, we can't minimize what a big deal this is, and to just really not try to downplay it at all, just to make yourself feel better, which is often the unspoken motive behind it, because you love them and you hate to see them hurting. Let me go to number 14, and it's this: don't offer spiritual help beyond prayer unless you know them well enough to know for sure that they would appreciate it. If this is something that you've talked about a lot, if you're on the same page in terms of your religion, your spirituality, and you know for sure that this will be helpful to them, but really err on the side of not saying anything. And I'll get into in a second what I'm talking about. But praying, saying I'm praying for you or praying with them then and there, especially if you're, you know that it's somebody who's not uncomfortable with that, who's not, say, atheist or of another religion, and you don't see eye to eye with them or whatever. I mean, hopefully you can think about whether, maybe you want to just tell them you're praying for them. Maybe you just want to pray for them and not even tell them. Or maybe, again, somebody who would appreciate praying with them then and there, or talking about spiritual kinds of issues. And then also don't let spiritual, religious, faith-related help be the end of it. Don't talk about faith and say that you're praying for them, and don't and not also help in practical ways. Some of the ways that I was talking about, and actually being there with them, spending time with them, or whatever they really need. You can offer to pray with them and talk about faith-related issues and do these other things. And you really should. Sometimes if you just offer things on the theological or prayer-related side of things, it can come across as empty and kind of a cop-out to people who are grieving. And sometimes it is. So, take a look in the mirror and ask yourself if you can actually help them in practical ways beyond just praying for them. And what I was talking about at first about additional spiritual help beyond prayer is saying things related to faith and beliefs and theology to try to help them feel better and try to kind of numb their pain or dull their pain in some way. Things like, I know that you're a person of faith and you believe they're in a better place, and so I'm so glad that you have your faith, right? That can communicate that they're not allowed to struggle and have a hard time, and they are. And it's actually hurtful and inhibits their ability to grieve in a healthy way, to tell them that. Or, you just have to have faith that God's going to get you through, or whatever. These kinds of things, anything that comes across like, if you are spiritual enough, if you have a strong enough faith, then you won't have such a hard time. Because the reality is that they are struggling, they are having a hard time. And all of the scriptures that I'm familiar with, Hebrew scriptures, New Testament, I've heard passages from other kind of holy books and other doctrines of other religions that pretty much every religion has room for struggling emotionally. Talking about my own Christian tradition that I have grown up with, there's the Psalms, and there's the whole range of human emotions there, and that was left in there. And the psalmist is seen as somebody who has this relationship with God. So we can talk about the hard stuff, the really hard stuff, the good, the bad, and the ugly. There's scriptures about how Jesus wept when his friend died or felt betrayed by God himself, and so many other examples of kinds of spiritual heroes, and not just in Christianity or Judaism, but there's examples of spiritual folks who really struggle with the whole gamut of human feelings and thoughts. All that stuff is allowed, and God is with us in that. So not to get preachy on you, hopefully, but I think that good religion, good spirituality makes space for that stuff and allows that stuff, allows our humanity, and points out how God is there suffering with us, hurting with us, understanding us, and relating to us. So please don't say anything that comes across like, it will be easy if only you believe X. Okay, enough said about that. Finally, for today, number 15, help them find a therapist or support group if you can and if they need it. But continue to be there for them as you're able. So similar to the last one, just like you shouldn't let faith-related help be kind of the end of it and not help them in other ways, it can be great to help them find a therapist if that's something that they want to do and they're intimidated by or don't have time for or whatever, or a support group, certainly. That can be a really good thing, just like praying with somebody can be a really good thing, or praying for them. But don't let that be the end. Offer practical help. They need you. They don't just need the professionals. They also need you, the person who they see in their daily life, who they have this long relationship with, this trusting, supportive friendship with, or this family relationship. So continue to be there for them and don't just leave it to the professionals. But that said, and here's kind of a plug, I guess, for my own work, is that it is so normal to need professional help while you're grieving. For many people, it's the hardest or one of the hardest things that you've ever been through or will ever go through. And it can't be overstated how difficult grief can be. To lose a dear loved one, it completely changes your life. It turns your life upside down. And often you can't be ready for it, no matter, even if you saw it coming a mile away and you talked about it with them, about death, and often those kinds of things are not the case. Even if they are, it's still normal to need professional help or a support group from others who are grieving. These things can be life-changing. They can be really helpful. As I said, I offer grief support, grief therapy. That's one of my specialties here, along with trauma. And so certainly feel free to contact me or let them know about my practice if they're seeking professional help, or if you find it elsewhere, that's great too. But again, coming back to the number 15 here, continue to be there for them as they're an important part of their support network too. Okay, that's all I've got for today, and I will see you in the next one, which will be part 4 out of 4. Thanks.